And in fact, as Isabel Wilkerson notes in her fantastic book, The Warmth of Other Suns, with 6 million African Americans over a generation leaving the South and going to the North. So at the start, we play that reel leading into our interview, and there was Stokely Carmichael leading that Black Power chant, a call and response. And let's talk about the term Black Power. First, the impact of that term, Black Power, on African Americans.
Well, it's interesting. So that happens in the middle of the Meredith March. It was actually another SNCC organizer named Willie Ricks who had really been road testing that slogan and was encouraging Stokely to start using it. So the only story that was written immediately was on the Associated Press, but it was picked up the next day by over 200 newspapers. And all of a sudden, you see the slogan Black Power in headlines, across America. That 3 days later, Stokely Carmichael was booked on Face the Nation for the first time. Everywhere Dr. King goes, he's asked, well, what do you think about Black Power? What does it mean? What's your response? So it shows you just the power of a slogan. I mean, we see this today with Black Lives Matter. A slogan itself can become a galvanizing force. The press immediately assumed the worst about Black Power, thought it meant violence and so forth. But for Black people, it had a double meaning. It had a political meaning, which we can talk more about, but it also had a cultural and a psychological meaning. This idea that Black folks didn't have to just sort of, be deferential, not only deferential to white people, but sort of have a kind of a Black version of white society, which frankly is something you kind of saw in a lot of Black social life up until that point. And it stood for the idea that, we can celebrate our Blackness. I talked to my former Newsweek colleague, Vern Smith, who had grown up in Natchez, Mississippi, went to San Francisco State, where the push for Black studies began. And the way he put it, nobody could put it better as far as I'm concerned. He said to me, and he was, right there on the front lines at San Francisco State in 1966. He said it was like a born again experience. We were no longer Negroes.